Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sandra Han Utsaha, and I'm delighted to be your MC for today's press conference. On behalf of the AFE Secretariat, we are excited to announce the third International Conference on Equitable Education, also known as the All for Education or AFE Conference. And the theme of this year's conference is Reimagining Education, Co-Creating Lifelong Learning for Youths and Adults. This conference serves as a global platform for policymakers, educators, and experts to exchange ideas, share innovative solutions, and also explore research that advances equity in education. The focus is on lifelong learning, youth empowerment, flexible learning pathways, and also skills development. We're also addressing key issues such as support for marginalized groups, overcoming skills gaps among those not in education, employment, or training, or NEETs, and ensuring equitable access to quality education for all. We are thrilled to have both local and international media with us today to help spread these important messages to a wider audience. And of course, it's time for us to begin the press conference, so I would now like to invite our esteemed representatives to join us on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of introducing Mr. Chayo Prihadi, Director of Monitoring and Evaluation at Kartu Prakarja, and Ms. Marina Patrie, Deputy Director, UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok, followed by Dr. Karayot Patarawad, Managing Director of the Equitable Education Fund, or EEF, Ms. Severine Leonardi, Deputy Representative for UNICEF Thailand, and Mr. John Arnaud Siena, Deputy Director for Program and Development of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization, or SEMEO Secretariat. Thank you to all of our esteemed representatives for joining this press conference, and we're so honored to have such a distinguished panel with us today. So I'm certain that our audience is eager to hear the insights that you have to share with us, and as we have so much to cover in a very limited amount of time, we have to ask that our panelists please take about 5 minutes to respond so that we can ensure a smooth flow of discussion and also allow time for all of our panelists to share their thoughts. So let's get started with a question for UNESCO. Ms. Patrie, given UNESCO's critical role in advancing SDG 4, could you please elaborate on the current situation and key numerical challenges or findings regarding inequality in this region, and what adjustments are necessary to meet the SDG 4 targets, which directly contribute to improving people's lives?
Good morning. Thank you for your question. So according to UNESCO Institute for Statistics, 115 million young people still lack basic literacy and numeracy skills, and 60% of them are women. So this is the first, data, very important. Also, the UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Report highlight that since 2015, the percentage of young people completing secondary education has increased by only 6 percentage points, reaching 59%. In Southeast Asia, 12% of youth of secondary school age are still out of schools, and they represent a total of 8 million, so meaning 8 million young people left behind. The growing skills gap and the increasing number of young people who are not in education, not in employment, not in training, highlight the urgent need for education and skills development to ensure access to decent work for everyone. So, the second part of your question, the response. So as a response or message as UNESCO is that we must build education systems that are flexible, that are inclusive, skills development program that target young people, particularly young people at risk, and at risk of not benefiting from these educational or training opportunities. Creating lifelong learning opportunities for young people and adults is the business of everyone. And this is why also, strong partnership, and I think everyone today in this conference is passing this message with very wide range of stakeholders. Strong partnership is so important. It's needed from national, local government, civil society, private sector. And finally, I'd like to add innovative initiative. It's very important as a response, like the UNESCO Learning Coin project, supported by the Equitable Education Fund of Thailand. It's a partnership between EEF and UNESCO, and it really offers promising solutions for disadvantaged youth to directly improve their literacy and quality of life.
Thank you so much for sharing that information. And now I'd like to turn to Mr. Siena for insight from CMEO. As an organization shaping education in Southeast Asia, and from your experience, what key strategies or game-changing measures are crucial right now to address educational inequality in the region and help us achieve SDG 4?
Thank you very much for the question. It's been an honor for me to represent CMEO, Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization, in this press conference and in this conference overall, focusing on reimagining education, co-creating lifelong learning for youth and adults. We have heard the story of Nada and Nurhayanti earlier, and these are moving stories actually. But if you try to multiply these numbers, then you will see the extent. For example, in the region, there can be millions of children who are in the same situation. And therefore, but we acknowledge the efforts of our countries. In fact, in terms of inclusion and equity in education. In fact, based on the GEM report that we co-developed with the UNESCO Paris GEM report team, we found out that 11 of our countries actually have policies on access to education using technology. And that is very encouraging. However, we still have a lot of gaps we see within the region. And hence, we would like to see that given these policies and the investments of the countries in education, I think we need to focus our investments on to address these inequities, issues and equity, inclusion, as well as quality. Because we know that because even in the GEM report, access to technology is already an issue, but I think it's just an indicator of something that's even deeper in terms of access of children to education. For instance, the more children who belong to more affluent households are 8 times more likely to access internet. And children who are in the urban areas are 2 times more likely to have access to internet. And for me and for us in the CMEO, this is just a tip of the iceberg. So we need to address this by making sure that our investments are more focused and targeted. This is not just in terms of government investment. I think all the players, those who are working in the education space, should be able to also focus their investments and efforts towards addressing equity. Maybe the second one I mentioned about technology is to also leverage technology in order to improve access to education. I think you will agree with me that technology has a lot of potential and power to be able to reach to children who are otherwise excluded from the education system. And I think even the policies that are adopted by the countries are recognizing the potential of technology. I think we can look at this. Third one, and we have seen how we have we have heard and seen how youth themselves are actually trying to understand their situation, the teachers trying to understand the situation, and we need, while the problem on equity is actually like global, universal, but I think we need to also look at local solutions. And this is where we need to empower more our local actors. Maybe calibrated because some of our, in other words, some of our communities may need more support. So our investment and our support should also be calibrated in that sense. So I think this is very important because at the end of the day, the solutions that should, to address these issues in education, in equity, should be coming from those who are really facing these difficulties day to day. So I think those are the recommendations that we can make at this point. 3 recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those recommendations and that insight. And now, Mr. Prihadi, drawing from Indonesia's experience and considering the limitations and uncertainties across political, social, and economic dimensions in our region, what lessons, successful strategies, or recommendations can you share on reducing inequality? And could you provide examples that could serve as models for neighboring countries in the region?
Okay, thank you so much. Basically, drawing from Indonesia experience, I'm going to talk about the case of Kartu Prakerja, one of the skills development program of Indonesia, and it was campaign promise from our president. So basically, go to that questions about the reducing inequality in lifelong learning. Basically, it's requires a comprehensive approach that addresses access, relevance, inclusivity in the region-specific context. Based on our experience, there are some lesson learned actually why Prakerja come to this place, and then we can share to all of you. Basically, whatever the program is, the basic is you need to have, as a government, you need to have a customer-centric approach. We need to put our empathy to the users. The users basically is the people that will benefit from the program. And the problem and its solution must be fit for the purpose. So other lesson learned, I just copy what Dr. John has mentioned, the use of the technology. Basically, that is important. We started that 4 years ago, and the technology can boost the output and the outcomes of the program. It provides scale, efficiency, accuracy, and also speed. That is the using of the digital technology. And one thing that also important from our lesson learned is that government cannot work alone for every objective for the country. We need to have the ecosystem of partnership. I think that has been also mentioned by the deputy of the Prime Minister in his speech just this morning, because in the ecosystem of partnership that Prakerja created, we believe that the expertise is there, the resources is there, they have all the talents, they know how to deal with this. The objective of the program where Prakerja is to provide the skills development that relevant to the job market. So we go and we discuss with them and we create this ecosystem. The main role for the government is basically to facilitate, to regulate, and let the ecosystem work to address the goal of the program. Data and evidence is also important because it can provide the evidence, information for effective decision making. The last one, sound institutional and mechanism design. For Prakerja case, we have a policy team, we have also implementing team, program management office. Those two has to be agile to each other. There has to be a communication, coordination, so that the willingness to listen, especially for the policy makers, so for they know that the policy can change because the operational side sometimes cannot do because of, perhaps this is from government's perspective here, the formulation of policy, sometimes they have different dimension with the implementation. So there has to be in the same frequency so that the policy can be implemented well and to bring benefit to the audience of the target of the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that very important information. And my next question is for Ms. Leonardi. From UNICEF's experience in Thailand, what challenges have you encountered in the field? And can you tell us what key findings and conclusions have emerged regarding the necessary changes or urgent actions required to achieve SDG 4, especially in improving the lives of children and youth here in Thailand?
Thanks a lot. The challenge have really evolved in Thailand. UNICEF has been here since 1948, and back then, 75 years ago, you would have 1 in 5 children dying before age 5, and most of those who lived on actually living before completing grade 4. Nowadays, life expectancy in Thailand is high, and most of the children actually complete lower secondary school. But the challenge don't stop, and the challenge actually take a very, very different form in Thailand. What we know from experience working with partners like EF and the Ministry of Education is that we have a real quality issue. So in Thailand, you have around half of children who are in grade 2 to 3 who do not have basic reading skills, basic calculating skills. So that highlights that, all these gaps and these delays actually going to continue on their journey in school. We know the PISA results have been declining since 10 years now. Out-of-school children, as mentioned by Dr. Krayot, have increased since the pandemic. You have a staggering 1 million children estimated to be out of school in Thailand. And I won't even mention the challenges we're facing because of climate change. We've seen it last week, over the last month in Thailand. Schools are closing. There is a disruption of education because of the floods. And that tremendously impacts children. What we also know is the equity issue is obviously is impacting the most vulnerable children in society. So I'm talking about children living in poorest household in Thailand, boys and girls living with disability, children from ethnic minority, and children who are living in non-Thai speaking household because Thailand is a host to many migrants in the country. The biggest challenge I feel that Thailand education system is going to have to face is really around its declining population. It can be a golden opportunity, and a decline in population can mean you can have additional investment in education, additional investment per capita, increasing the quality of education. But Thailand has a real challenge because half of its schools are small schools. And how do you then handle such a transition in terms of the declining population and the multiplication of small schools? It's not sustainable. And this type of change really need to be planned ahead of time. We need to really look critically at how efficient the allocation of resources to education are made. So we're able to plan forward. There a lot of hope as well, because there are some very exciting initiatives that are happening in Thailand. The launch of Thailand's zero dropout policy by EF and many other partners is very exciting on how we can actually tackle the issue of inequality and making sure that children and young people are providing the right flexible pathway for learning. The other policy that the government has also launched is learning anytime, any place, really emphasizing the digital education. So we really are looking forward as UNICEF to continue working with the different partners to make this a reality. And we've heard from Nada, we've heard from Noor this morning. Without the support we can all give and bringing all the resources together, we won't make a difference. So this is where an alliance of a different partner is really essential.
Thank you as well for sharing that, Ms. Leonardi, and to all of our speakers so far for painting a picture for us. So let's hear from EEF now. Dr. Krayot, for the past 5 years, EEF has played a crucial role in reducing educational inequality in Thailand. Could you share your key findings as well as examples of measures or projects that have effectively addressed systemic issues, and how do you evaluate their potential in contributing to Thailand's progress toward achieving SDG 4?
Thank you. As an organization, starting our business during COVID, it's something that very challenging from the beginning. It means that from the year one, we could not use the same solution for the issue of equitable education. The school was closing down at that time. Many things stopped working, and we found ourselves, introduce ourselves in the so many new terminology like learning loss, learning recovery, and the sudden surge in the use of technology to try to cope with the pandemic and the school closure. So with that new reality that we need to find ourselves in as a new organization, try to focus on the issue of equitable education. We think that what came out of the pandemic through this experience in the past 5 years is interesting, because it suddenly forced us to rethink about how to tackle the issue about out-of-school children. We try to come up with a better estimation, a better way to track these out-of-school children at the individual level. That's why you now see the number of 1 million children. Thanks to the UNESCO and UNICEF, that we use this 7 dimension of exclusion as the very key framework. And by introduce and explain that framework to the educator in our country is already a challenge. And to put the number in each dimension is also another breakthrough in terms of connecting database from 21 different educational agencies who provide education, and to connect it with the civil registration in the Ministry of Interior. And that's one of the breakthrough that I think it came out of the pandemic. People start to pay more attention, to pay more, set more priority in these out-of-school students who used to be seems like a minimal figure. Now they are front and center, and at the moment. Another, because the time is quite short, so I think another breakthrough that we have out of the pandemic is this conference. Because as I mentioned previously at the stage, that 2020 is the first year of the COVID-19. It happened to be the 30 years commemoration of the Jomtien Declaration or Education for All. The journey is quite far, 30 years, but we still find the same challenge when we talked about now SDG 4, but we still have the last 10%, the last mile challenge problem to bring the last 10% back to school, and maybe they increase into 15 or 20% due to pandemic, to bring them back to learning track, to bring them to the skill development, to bring them back to the normal life is all of challenge. It's not just about education, it's about health, it's about family, it's about social work. It's so many dimensions that we need more actors from outside of the education system. And that's why we play with the term education for all, and then we need all for education. So I think that is something that is a progress in the past 5 years. And I'm happy that we are in the third conference to highlight the importance of lifelong learning, particularly for youth and adults who suffer the most, I think, they are the group of population who suffer the most after 5 years from the pandemic. And they deserve the right to go back to their normal life in terms of education, in terms of career, in terms of their family life. And we hope that this conference is not just a typical conference. I would like to spend my 1 or 2 last minute to refer to the last Nobel Prize in Economics that award to the group of economists study institution and how institution promote education and growth in the next 100 or 200 years. That is very important when we talked about how we develop an inclusive institution. EEF, thanks to UNICEF and UNESCO, that helped us set up EEF 5 years ago as an inclusive institution to develop education opportunity, equitable education for the young generation. To have this organization set up institutionally, we have a law, the Equitable Education Act, to set our organization, to set up the fund and start working in the past 5 years. That's why in the third conference, we invite EEA. We help be part, thanks to, again, to your contribution from UNESCO and UNICEF, to develop the alliance on equitable education with the aim that with the similar institution everywhere, we should come together to exchange our institutional memory, experience, and a vision for the way forward. Because if we can do that, this initiative will outlive all of us on this stage. What we can do is not just to do our daily work, but to design and set up this kind of institutional mechanism domestically and internationally. So hopefully, when the next pandemic comes, when the next challenge comes, there will be institution, there will be experience to help us be more resilient, to help us help more children that we can do more compared with the last pandemic. So that's why I think that in this month, since the Nobel Prize award to the idea that institution can be inclusive and can promote economic growth and education. So let's hope that this third international conference, as a result from the last pandemic, can help us move forward to a new reality, and we can be more resilient, and we can see that the youth and adults in the future can receive equitable education in a more sustainable way than the last one.
Thank you very much for sharing those developments and also that call to action, if you will. So I have another question that I'd like to address to all of my panelists. Amid the increasing challenges and crises, and after the conclusion of this meeting, what concrete actions will the organizations commit to in accelerating progress toward SDG 4 over the next 6 years? For example, what international collaborations will we see, or tangible policies that reduce regional inequality, for instance, or perhaps new partnerships that involve maybe the private sector or local communities that can be fostered to play a more significant role? Would anyone like to address this question?
Maybe I'll begin from the CEMEO. We are quite in a very unique position because Southeast Asian Ministers of Education is a regional intergovernmental organization composed of 11 member countries represented by the Ministers of Education across Southeast Asia. And part of our network would be our 11 member countries. We have 26 centers and network within the region spread across Southeast Asia, with Indonesia having the most number at 6 here in Thailand. We have 9 associate member countries that are outside of Southeast Asia, and 8 affiliate members that are development organizations, education institutions. We, given, and of course, our traditional partners like UNICEF, ASEAN, UNESCO, and other partners coming from different parts of the globe, working with us on several initiatives. We have platforms. For example, we have annual meetings starting from the center directors meeting of all the 26 centers and network. We have governing board members meeting representing the different countries in Southeast Asia. Also, we have a platform for high officials meeting and the SEMEO Council Conference. In all of these conferences, we provide a platform for sharing challenges, solutions, best practices from which our member countries would be able, and even our partners can actually learn from. We also have programs that are essentially collaborative in nature, addressing equity in education. For instance, we have the Border Schools Project with the Ministry of Education of Thailand. And for us to do this, we really go down to the grassroots and really understand the situation on the ground, visiting the schools, interviewing students and teachers and school heads and other supervisors within the education system to be able to really see the real picture so that we can discuss with the ministry what can we do together. We also have a program on advancing the UK-ASEAN SAGE program, or supporting the advancement of girls' education. It's not just focusing on girls, but also on marginalized and sectors in the community, as well as out-of-school youth. And we try to work with the countries. So this is a very unique and very important part of the project, because we don't just give them projects, initiatives, but we talk to them, we consult with them, we co-develop with them those programs and initiatives that we can do together, so that we will be able to really respond to the unique needs and context of the countries. And in all of these efforts, we always see to it that equity and inclusion is very much a part of the principles, of the fundamental principles of what we are doing. So it's not just in the programs, but also in the way that we actually look at the operation of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization. So in that sense, I think moving forward, after this conference, it's just intensifying further that kind of collaboration that we have, because at the end of the day, the mission of Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization is to promote collaboration in order to improve education, science, and culture in Southeast Asia. Thank you.
If I can add, some of Dr. John has been mentioned. Learning from COVID-19, it has taught us a lot about that, and we believe that actually disruption cannot wait. So it can happen, it can occur anytime, and people have different ability to adapt. So currently, our answer is that if they have skills, if they have the skills, it can bring them more resilience to adapt with this situation. So if this is about the concrete action, I guess similar to Dr. John has mentioned, that actually all of us has to be open door, like for insights. Like this is a good platform. Prakarja is very grateful to become a new member of this alliance, Equitable Education Alliance, so that we have a platform, other platform for us to share and also exchanging ideas, so we get some of the good ideas that we can bring. Because until now, even though, like Indonesia is, we have fourth largest populous country in the world, so even though Prakarja has covered like 18.9 million in just like 4.5 years, but still there are millions to cover. So we are still actually seeking the answers, and this is a good platform so that any countries, organization, international partners can discuss, bring, research result, innovations, perhaps consultancy, perhaps we can open for technical assistance so that we can help one to another. So basically, using this platform, I guess we are all can benefit from this discussion. Thank you.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, maybe thanks first to point out to this deadline. You're talking about the 6 years, and the 2030 deadline is around the corner, and it's so important. And the second part, the partnership that you're highlighting, and again, this Equitable Education Alliance is showing that. So as UNESCO, as the Secretariat of the Alliance, will continue to support. I think it's a fantastic platform, bringing a wide range of stakeholders from NGOs, ministries, and other partners. In coming, action, the Alliance has planned, to work together on research, on case studies of promising practices on very important issues, such as education financing, looking specifically at this topic. We heard a lot today about the young people not in employment, education, and or training, the net. So there are many issues like this that really deserve to work together on this. I think there are also other partnership network, for example, UNICEF and UNESCO, coordinating in Asia Pacific the 2030 education, the learning and 2030 education network, which is another platform, with a wide range of stakeholders. So these partnerships are very, very important. And maybe one important point we heard today as well is this lifelong learning. It's the topic of reimagining education, co-creating lifelong learning for young and adults. This is so important, and through initiative like Learning Cities, UNESCO is really trying to work with different countries. And actually, at the end of the month, Thailand will host another regional meeting on Learning Cities with Asian countries plus 3, and we'll be really focusing on this issue of inequality and opportunities for access to equitable and also lifelong learning.
So I'll maybe mention 3 things that UNICEF will really keep prioritizing in partnership with partners in Thailand. First and foremost is invest in early years. What we've seen during the pandemic is that there was a decline in children attending kindergarten, a drop of around 11% in Thailand specifically. And that's one area where we need to focus on. A child that is born today in Thailand will only be 60% productive according to a human capital index in Thailand. So that means we need to make sure children are ready to learn. So that's one first priority we're going to focus on. The second one is really going back to the staggering number of children who do not have this basic reading skill, basic calculation skills. We need to focus on foundational learning, meaning that we need to emphasize what's happening again for children in grade 1, 2, 3, and go back to the basics. The other thing, and that's an area that is very dear to our heart and that goes along with the work we're doing with EF as well, everything that has to do with vulnerable and disadvantaged children to make sure they have access to education. So UNICEF, for example, works in a lot of small schools and very remote areas with mobile libraries as an example. So we make sure that reading becomes part of the daily lives of children. So that's something we'll keep prioritizing. The other thing is I've mentioned the ethnic minorities in Thailand. And UNICEF will keep supporting different partners around making sure that mother tongue-based education is actually widely available and implementable. Thailand has a very generous education policy and a very progressive one. So we want to make sure that children learn first in their own language and then transition to Thai because it's proven scientifically that that works. The last thing I'll mention is really the work that needs to go on with regards to investment in teachers. And we don't talk enough about the teachers because they are at the core of the education system. Thailand needs also to basically reform its education and this investment in teachers. We need to make sure they have the adequate skills to basically teach properly to the children and the right skills for the world of work for them to transition.
Right. I hope that in the next 6 year, we still have some sort of SDG goal after 2030. Because I start my work in this sector during the Millennium Development Goal. I think I remember the last 5 years was quite hectic in terms of what's going to happen next. And I was in Incheon during that conference that they're going to try to come up with the goal. And at that point, nobody know what it's going to look like, the SDG, not even the name itself. So I think in the next 6 years, if there are some sense of continuity of the unfinished business in the SDG and how we can continue to achieve those goals and the experience that we draw in the past 10 years is really valuable. And if the EEA, Equitable Education Alliance, that we are now expanding to many countries, many organizations, can be part of that reflection and the part of that planning to the new global goals, let's say. Because at that point, you use a global goals as some before the sustainable goal. So if that in the next 6 years we have this, all for education approach, everybody come together, reflecting what happened during the COVID, what happened in the 10 years of SDG, and then together helping design the next global goal after 2030. I think that is one of the very key agenda for everyone. And so we can have a better chance to achieve all the goals in the next. Is it going to be in the next 15 years? I'm not sure. Who knows? If 15 years is too long, we're going to cut down to 10 years or not? I still have no idea, and that is something important. And the last thing that I would like to mention is about this journey on the Thailand Zero Dropout program. We just started this year, and is it possible that we can actually achieve zero? What kind of zero we are talking about? And this experience, this journey of our 1 million children, I think it's going to be a really unique research opportunity, unique data collection, and learn of how to use technology on all this. If any other country would like to also be ambitious and set the goal of zero dropout as well, I think Thailand and at EEF, we are willing to work together with any organization, any country that we can together achieve SDG 4 in this ambitious aim of zero dropout. So that is another thing we like to commit in the next 6 years.
Thank you so much. So we'd like to thank Mr. Prihadi, Ms. Patrier, Dr. Grayot, Ms. Leonardi, and Mr. Siena for all of your insightful remarks. And it's clear that the topics that we've discussed today are not only important, but also highly relevant to the current challenges that we face in education. And your insights truly highlight the importance of collaboration and innovation in achieving equitable access to learning opportunities for everyone. And before we move on to the Q&A session, I would like to remind everyone that this is a great opportunity to engage with our expert speakers. So please feel free to ask any questions that will help clarify anything discussed today, or perhaps explore other areas of interest linked to our theme of reimagining education, co-creating lifelong learning for youths and adults. So we're ready for questions, and we have a microphone ready for you to approach to ask your question. And please let us know if there's any particular panelists you would like to answer. Yes.
ขอถามเป็นภาษาไทยได้ใช่ไหมคะ ค่ะจากบางกอกโพสต์นะคะจะถามนี้เห็นบนเวทีพูดเรื่องผลกระทบ
I'm on from the Bangkok Post. I would like to have a question about the climate. Is it in the education sector? Is there any chance to reduce the impact of climate change?
Climate change and how it is affecting education. Is there any measures in place in the current educational system that are addressing the effects of climate change?
So I'll answer from the Thai perspective. There's actually a lot of things happening. So we know that it disrupts education. It has, any floods, any natural hazards obviously impacts tremendously children. It disrupts education, it destroys schools, and then children stay out of school for a longer period until the school can reopen. So what's happening right now in Thailand is there is actually, on the 24th, there'll be a very big meeting in Thailand that is convened by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Environment with the support of UNICEF, that's going to discuss the next step when it comes to what we call climate smart education. So when I say climate smart education, there's very simple things to be done. First is you need to make sure that climate issues are integrated into the curriculum, into the teacher's book, into the student books. That's one. But the second things that we're working on, both with, again, education and the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources, is making sure there is smart investment in energy and infrastructure. So green energy, how do you install solar panel, for example, in all schools? So there is actually saving on electricity that can then be reinvested in teachers' development, in extracurricular activity for children. And most importantly, how we make sure children actually become change agents in their community, in their family. And I'll give you my example. I didn't do waste management 10 years ago. I do waste management now because of my children, because they come to me and they tell me, you're a bad mom, you're not doing it. So these are some of the examples that are basically happening right now in Thailand. The plan is to reach 30,000 eco schools by 2030. So it's a very ambitious target, but there are all the ingredients to actually make it happen.
Thank you for that. Are there any other questions from anyone joining us today? No? Okay. If there are no further questions, then I would like to invite our esteemed representatives to take a commemorative photo. So the team needs to rearrange the stage a bit, so if you wouldn't mind joining us just off stage for a few moments. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was our panel of experts discussing education moving forward under the theme Reimagining Education, Co-Creating Lifelong Learning for Youths and Adults. And our panelists brought attention to the need for investment in improving inclusion and also how youth themselves are trying to understand their situation. That is the comment that was made by Mr. Siena from CMEO. We also know that UNICEF told us that 1/5 of children in the past died before the age of 5, and that was back in the 1940s, but now kids are completing their lower secondary school, most of them. Okay, and a basic issue is that students are lacking reading and math skills at a very young age, and the PISA results in Thailand have dropped. So big smiles, everyone. And we learned from Mr. Pihadi about how the government needs to have a customer-centric approach, and technology is needed. It's for skills and speed, for skills and speeds in the skills development. Data is also important for evidence for effective decision-making, as well as communication and coordination. And in Southeast Asia, we have 115 million students who lack the basic skills. So we need flexible systems, we need to target people at risk, we need to create opportunities, and we have a strong partnership, as you can see here, right on stage. Thank you, everyone, but please remain on stage for a second, because before we conclude today's session, we would like to take a moment to express our deep appreciation to all of our representatives joining us today. And as a token of our gratitude, Dr. Karayot and the Equitable Education Fund, or EEF Thailand, have prepared a special souvenir for all of our panelists. So, Dr. Karayot, could you please do the honors? Our panelists' presence here today signifies the commitment and dedication toward making education more equitable and accessible for everyone. And this gesture represents not only our thanks, but also the strong partnership and collaboration that we will continue to build on as we work toward the vision of all for education. So thank you again to our expert panelists for joining us today. A big round of applause, please. Okay. So this is a very important moment for education. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you to our panelists. Thank you. A big round of applause again, please, for our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the close of today's press conference, I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank all of the representatives from both the local and international media for your interest and your participation. We truly value the role you play in raising awareness about the All for Education initiative and also helping us spread the word about our upcoming conference and the meaningful discussions that will shape the future of equitable education. Your coverage will ensure that these vital messages reach a global audience and inspire action. Once again, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing the impactful stories that you share. We hope you have a wonderful day ahead. ขอบคุณค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ